took longer than they normally do to come up with the official decisions. And I've never been convinced that I was defeated. I think that it should have been a tie race because the timers gave me the same time as they awarded to Eddie Tolan.
In the name of the President of the United States, I proclaim open the Olympic Games of Los Angeles, celebrating the 10th Olympiad of the modern era.
Hello? The 1932 Olympics were held in Los Angeles, and unfortunately there was a global depression at the time. Consequently, the combination of the world financial situation and the relative remoteness of Los Angeles really cut back on attendance. There were fewer than half as many athletes taking part in the 1932 Olympics as had taken part in the 1928 Olympics in Amsterdam. However, the 1932 Olympics being in Los Angeles also had the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. A lot of the athletes got to meet the famous stars. So on the one hand, you had some athletes who were so poor that they were hitchhiking to the Olympics and then taking food home to their family. And on the other hand, you had athletes meeting Mary Pickford and other famous actors. First thing to know is that Tolan and Metcalf, the two favorites from the United States, were African American. They were black athletes, and so there, amongst the other runners was Takayoshi Yoshioka, who was from Japan and who was famous for being a quick starter. And in fact, in the Olympic final, he dashed out into the lead from the very first step and held the lead for the first 40 meters before fading. Then there was Daniel Joubert, who was from South Africa. He had traveled 38 days to get to the Olympics. So, it was quite an achievement that he was even there. Eddie Tolan was unusually short for an athlete by American standards. He was called 5'7", and he wore glasses, which he kept together by tape. He was not a man from a wealthy family, so he was kind of considered, how can I put it, stocky and very strong. He chewed gum while he ran. He had glasses. He was short, and he chewed gum. Ralph Metcalf was taller. He seemed to be more the way you would imagine a sprinter to look. Metcalf, as an athlete, he had come on strong in the Olympic year. He was famous for his finish. He would come on strong at the end and, kind of nip people right at the line. And so when, for example, when the race, the Olympic final actually took place in 1932, Tolan and Metcalf they appeared to reach the finish line at the same time. And it took judges, 7 judges had to view a film of the race, which was an Olympic first to start using photo finish cameras and technical innovations to decide who won. A lot of people who were in the stadium thought that it was a dead heat, a draw.
Hello, this is Lindy. If you see that finish, it's very difficult to understand that Metcalf did not win. But that the judgment was that Eddie Tolan won the race. And it was the way they understood it, was to win the race in those days, you had to go through the finish line.
If the current rules had been used, rules that later came into force in the Olympics, then it's quite possible that Metcalf would have been given the victory.
So they gave Eddie Tolan the victory. Eddie Tolan was a good sprinter because he also won the 200. He won both. He proved that he was the fastest. And Metcalf never accepted that all his life. He said, I won that race.
This is the world's fastest human, Eddie Tolan of the United States, who tied the world's record and broke the Olympic record in winning the 100-meter dash in 10 and 3/10 seconds.
Luck's the fortune, and I happen to be the fortunate one this time.
I think what was very difficult for Metcalf was that 4 years later he was back in the Olympics, and he finished second again, this time to the famous runner Jesse Owens. So, here was Metcalf twice almost winning the gold medal in the 100 meters, but not quite.
This is right. Timing is everything in sport, and in individual sport, timing certainly is everything. And the same goes to Ralph Metcalf, a great sprinter, just at the wrong time in that he was at the same time as Jesse Owens. And Jesse Owens, what he did in 1936, especially when you consider the political atmosphere and the location of the Olympic Games that year, that kind of a backstory, and really it's a front story, is so compelling that you forget everything else. Ralph Metcalf, one of the great sprinters this country has produced, and we've produced many, just had a timing problem.